Handcrafted and American made right here in the USA. B Pro Kennels is bringing you a premium built dog box unlike anything you've ever seen before. Built from a full tube frame, aluminum powder coated shell, built-in lockable storage, and oh, did you forget to charge those dog collars before you left? No worries, B Pro has you covered with their built-in solar panel and battery bank to take care of all your charging needs while out on the road chasing birds this fall. Give them a serious look at bprokennels.com. All good things start with a solid foundation. At Final Rise, all three of their premium Upland vests are built around the foundational waist belt to provide you all-day comfort and endless customization. With a secure waist belt and a thin, high-quality shoulder harness, which sits perfectly along the back, holding everything in place. Durable, premium Upland gear made here in my neighboring state of Heber, Utah. Check them out at finalrise.com. Also, be sure to check out the brand new Sidekick vest, which is the perfect ultra light, ultra minimalistic vest that you'll be rocking in the hills this season. You're listening to The Upland Rookie, a podcast presented by Upland Brits. This podcast is also sponsored by Anook Shook Professional Dog Food and Trinity Bretons, home of the Epinol Breton. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 50 of the Upland Rookie Podcast. I'm your host, Will Larson, and I cannot believe we've made it to 50 episodes. A few more if you're counting some bonus episodes we put out, including my tailgate talk with Jeremy, which I put out on Friday. I'm going to be doing those every couple weeks, maybe about every other week right now. So that's going to be kind of a continued mini-series, if you will, with my good friend Jeremy Lowry. So make sure to check that out. Speaking of bonus episodes, I also did an episode with my wife a while back, and she's a non-hunter and got her take on things related to bird dogs and my hunting trips, and it was pretty fun. I'll have to get her back on the podcast here in the future. I did want to take a quick minute while I brought up my wife and just say thank you. Just say thank you to my wife for her support over the past year and a half of me locking myself in the garage for hours on end, usually after work. And, she's taking on extra responsibility with the kids and the house and just life. I mean, she works full time as well. And so babe, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for, allowing me to, do what I'm doing, continue the show, be on social media as much as I am, really has meant a lot to me. So thank you so much. Guys, I got a really fun, show for you today. A couple things to go over before we dive into the podcast. First off, I just want to thank you guys, the listeners, for your continued support with the podcast. Subscribing to it. You've left rating and reviews. You've shared it on social media. And again, I've talked about this, I think, last week on the episode as well. But the engagement I get to have with so many of you who listen to the show, hearing how or why it's impacted you in your upland journey is really a big motivator for me. And so thank you, because without listeners of the show, it's just me talking to a microphone, and that is pointless. So I love hearing how the show has impacted you in one way or another. So keep it up. Hey, a couple quick announcements before we get too far. For the Patreon community, I have finally finalized some details for a few months of some really, really sweet giveaways through Patreon. So if you don't know what Patreon is, it's Patreon. There's 3 levels of membership. You can sign up, cancel anytime, super simple. But I have some really, really incredible giveaways coming up here. The companies include Upland Knife Company, Cable Gangs, Final Rise, and Gunner Kennel. So there's some really, really cool prizes up for grabs. How we're going to do this is I'm going to do a giveaway a month. So we're going to have a July, August, September, and an October giveaway. So we're doing 4 months of giveaways. It is going to be winner's choice. So I've changed this up a little bit. I think I was saying it was going to be the fan kit from Gunner for July. I'm actually going to just make this a winner's choice giveaway. A little simpler because, depending on who wins, you might want something different. So I'm just going to make it winner's choice for these giveaways. So make sure you head over to patreon.com/the Upland Rookie Podcast, or just go to the website, patreon.com, and just search the Upland Rookie Podcast. You'll find my page, and then there's 3 tiers of membership over there. So basic level, get your name in the hat for all giveaways 2 times. The mid-tier membership, get your name in the hat 5 times. And the top tier, get your name in the hat 10 times. Plus, the first 10 people to sign up for the gold level wing shooter will get a free Upland Rookie Podcast hat. So that's only available to the first 10 people. So let me tell you what is up for grabs in this giveaway. So again, winner's choice is going to be a July, August, September, and October giveaway. So each of those months, one person will be drawn from Patreon, and you will get your chance to pick one knife from Upland Knife Company. Now, Mike Thompson over there is putting out some incredibly handcrafted, made right here up in Montana, some incredible knives. And these are beautiful, beautifully designed and crafted knives that are just, they look badass. He is going to throw on the podcast logo engraving onto this knife, whoever wins. So that's going to be a nice little customized knife. I'm incredibly excited to see how that looks. So that's option 1. Option 2 is a Cable Gangs system from Cable Gangs. So you are going to get your choice. Whoever wins is going to get their choice of a 2-dog system with stakes. So it's going to be a 2-dog system with 2 stakeouts, or you can upgrade to a 4-dog system. So winner's choice. Again, you can either choose the 2-dog system with stakes or a 4-dog system without stakes. That's from Cable Gangs and Brennan Landry. Brennan, thank you so much. And then Gunner fan kits. Those are, from Gunner, they make great products. Quality made. They've upgraded the fan kit and super long lasting battery. Really, really nice fan. Again, keep your dogs cool. August, September, October can be warm. If you're hitting the prairies, those are going to come in real handy on your kennel, keeping your dogs cool. So that's option 3. And option 4 is going to be a Final Rise vest. Now, again, winner's choice over if you want the new Sidekick vest, the super ultra light Sidekick, the Legacy, or the Summit. So that is going to be your choice on which vest is going to suit you and your needs this fall. So again, just to remind you, we're going to do winner's choice giveaway each of the next 4 months: July, August, September, and October. I really, really want to thank these companies for putting these products forward for listeners of the show. Again, to be entered into the giveaway, you must be signed up on patreon.com/the Upland Rookie Podcast. All right, before we jump into this episode, a special guest, Ronnie Boehme. Ron Boehme, some people might refer to him as the OG, Uncle Ron, and I was really honored that he decided to come on the show and let me interview him. He runs the Honey Dog podcast, and he is well over 300 episodes in. Kind of got things rolling here with the Upland podcast, a hunting podcast game. And so we talk a little bit about that and his journey. But we kind of go back to the roots of his upbringing and get to kind of flip the script a little bit. He does a great job of interviewing some really, really great guests with thought out answers or thought out questions. And so I've really appreciated, learning from him, listening to what he's been putting out there. And so it's definitely fun flipping the script a little bit and letting him do the talking. And so one of the things, he gives some really, really good advice for not just someone new to hunting, but I think people who've been doing it a while. I think some advice he gives at the end about dogs in hunting and conservation. When he said this live and we were talking, it it hit a chord with me because I was in a very similar spot. Not, just up until a couple of years ago with conservation and wildlife management and all that. So I'll just tease that. Stay tuned till the end. Again, he shares some really good wisdom with us. So anyways, guys, we're going to jump into episode 50's conversation with Ron Boehme. How was your trip to Alaska? You just got back pretty recently, right?
Yeah, no, it was a great trip. I've been up to Alaska. I think I counted 12 times now. Once on a caribou hunt to the North Slope. But the other 11 times have all been to Prince of Wales Island over to the shack. And it was just like every trip. And for some reason, when I go there, we have good weather. I've never had one of those weeks where it's just Ketchikan or Prince of Wales. It's in a rainforest, but I've literally never had a week there where I had to have a raincoat on all week. It was just unseasonably nice out. So my son-in-law got to go with me. He got to get himself a bear. I caught a lingcod. I don't like fishing, but I got to go because everybody's going. So to come on around, we need another rod in the water. So occasionally I catch something and add to the bounty. But yeah, it's just always, to me, it's almost the favorite thing is getting on that float plane and just flying over the ocean and then around the island and then just landing there. There's something about that. It makes you feel like, yep, I ain't going home right now.
Are those little prop planes? Are those a little sketchy? Do you ever feel a little nervous getting up in those?
I don't. But the funny thing is, there isn't any of them that are any younger than me. If you get on any, what they call, those are called beavers, and the bigger one's called an otter. But a beaver is made by de Havilland. It's a defunct airplane company. I think it's from Canada. And they made a lot of them back in the day, and they just keep rebuilding them. So like when you sit in the cockpit or the second seat, you're looking at a dashboard that was made in 1957 or 55.
You're not reassuring me here. You're not reassuring me. This is...
No, I know. And they all put in a nice new a nice new screen for their display, but everything else in that plane is, crank flap up here and a flap handle down here when you're landing. And yeah, it's, so if you believe that, things made in the 50s were good like I do, then it's safe.
Hey, they're going to keep going. They're going to keep going. Because you got to be pretty cautious about like weight limits too on those things, right? With all your gear and stuff that you're hauling in.
Yeah. When you get all your stuff there, everything's put on the scale. And if they don't think your weights, if they think you're lying, like if there was a bunch of really large people that were saying, how much you weigh? 200. And they looked at you funny, they put you on the scale. So yeah, everything's scaled. I think that plane can fly with 1,600 pounds total.
Wow. That's not much.
That's
not much.
No, it's not. When you put 4 adults in there, that's already, 800 pounds right there.
Golly. How was the bear hunt portion for your son-in-law?
Oh, it was great. I think he got his on his third night. I think it was his third night. Maybe no, it was his second night. He got it on his second night. And he was just geeked up. He was grinning from ear to ear. And then we got done skinning that bear probably about 12:30 that night. Got back, we eat dinner and make dinner and clean up. And then we went out on the porch with headlamps, and there is some electricity up there. Yeah. And then we skinned that out and got the skin in the freezer, got the meat in the freezer. And it was about, 12:30, 1 o'clock probably when we walked up to Danny's cabin. And then we sat on the porch up there for about another hour, and he kept telling the story over and over like all hunters do. And it was great. It was a great trip.
That's awesome.
Other than I fell through they have an old dock there that somebody gave them. And when I say old dock, I mean old dock. It's a floating plank basically. And I went with a 50-pound bag of rock salt straight through the dock.
Into the water?
And don't ask me. Well, my right leg was all the way in the water. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good story right there.
Yeah, so I was literally pinned on the dock with a bag of rock salt on my shoulder, asking, and I hear the plane starting up and going away, and I'm thinking I might have a fucking broken leg here. I don't know.
It's that rock salt. It's the rock salt that put you over the edge.
Yeah. Yeah, the weight limit on the rotten board. Yeah. But no, it was a great trip.
That's awesome, Ron. That's awesome. Well, let's back up just a second in case the listeners might not have heard of you. We're talking to, well, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and where are you talking to us from?
Well, this is Ron Boehme from the Hunting Dog Podcast, and I'm in my kennel in Virginia, or not in Virginia. I was in Virginia a week ago. In Michigan, just got done cleaning up. My daughter's dog is staying here, and she completely shit the inside of the corner of the kennel. Just got done cleaning that up. So when I told you I'd be ready earlier, I wouldn't have been ready any earlier than now, and I got a candle lit right now. So yeah, coming to you from West Michigan, and yeah, I started doing this podcast. This is my 8th year doing it. And now there's, I don't know, there's probably a dozen of us out there now doing this. I would think
something like that.
A few that have come and gone, but I think I told you what I told a lot of people when they asked me. I said, yeah, you stick it out for a year. If you're still doing it, I'll jump on and shoot the shit, because I get the request a lot. Trust me.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I'm sure. Well, I appreciate you. You got right back to me. I emailed you, and you're like, absolutely, would love to. So, and this is my 50th episode celebration. I don't know. This is not someone didn't die. 50th episode, and I'm thankful that you've come on to share some of your wisdom and get to know you a little more. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of podcasts, I mean, let's just kind of start there a little bit. I mean, you have been doing this. I mean, 8 years, that's a long time to be, at this podcast game. And you were kind of I think the original upland hunting podcast. Is that right?
Yeah. As Tyler and a few other guys call me, and Nick and those boys, they say I'm the OG. Okay. I don't know what that means, but I think it means original, I think.
Yeah. Original.
Yeah. So there was, I was a big podcast listener. I disconnected the XM radio in my car probably 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago in one of my trucks, and started listening to podcasts. And then with my not lifelong, but decades long connection with Steve from Meat Eater, he was going to be on Joe Rogan's podcast. This is like way early in Joe's podcast. And I said, well, that's cool. And I figured out how to listen to it. And I was like, shit. And I started listening to Joe Rogan podcast and a few other ones. And there wasn't anything in our genre, on dogs. And there was some weird little one. I forget what it was called, but it was like somebody reading a paragraph out of a dog book or something. I wouldn't call it a podcast by any means. And, so a couple of years later, Joe had talked Steve into doing a podcast. He's always Joe Rogan tells everybody to do a podcast. That's probably why there's 2 million podcasters in the country. But so we went to go do a crane hunt in Texas, and Steve told me, he says, hey, don't wander off after, when we get done cleaning birds. He says, we're going to do a podcast. I said, really? I said, that's cool. I said, where are we going to go? He goes, no, we just brought the equipment, and I had a little better equipment than you or I do, but it was still just a suitcase with a mixer and headphones. And so as soon as I realized that you could do this in a kitchen, which means I could do it in a kennel or I could do it on the tailgate, I honestly thought that all podcasts had to have a studio, like, sound engineer,
like a big setup and producer and all that.
Something. I thought you had to know something, and apparently I was the perfect for it because I didn't know shit, So yeah, I recorded that one with Steve in December, and I told him when we hung up the headphones, I said, I'm going to buy some equipment and I'm going to start a podcast January 1st. He says, then ours will come out on the same day.
Oh, no way.
And yeah. I got one of my buddies over here that I hunted with, and he's like, what are we doing? I said, just start talking. He goes, well, we're always talking. I said, I know, but we're being recorded. He's like, no, I don't want to do that.
It's funny when people know they're going to be recorded, it can, I don't know, there's this thing that gets in people's head of like, oh wait, it's like, no, just talk like you naturally do.
I know. I've had experience with people, like I said, for all these years, a couple times a year, I'll get somebody who will be referred to me by somebody else. They're like, "Oh, Ron, you got to talk to Will Larson," right? Just, and Will happens to be older than me. And when I talk to him on the phone, it's great. Mm. And he's like, "Yeah, but I don't know how to do this podcast thing." I said, I could have been recording what we just did. I said, just, if you're going to put your mindset in it, pretend you're sitting down on a plane. You never want to be next to anybody, but the guy next to you is reading Pointing Dog Journal. And you go, "Hey, what kind of dog you got?" And he goes, "Oh, okay, I get it."
There you go.
Yeah, you're right. Some people think you're supposed to do a radio voice, or, depends on what you want to do. So, no, that's how I started. And,
I love that. Because 8 years ago, podcasts weren't huge 8 years ago. It was kind of, I don't know, I think kind of a newer thing, right? I mean, sure, I think Joe Rogan, like you said, was up and running, but
there was certainly a lot of them out there. But now I think, there's so many niche podcasts like Uplands and Dogs, where there was broader a lot of broad podcasts, crime novel ones or something.
Sure.
Now it's like every swinging Charlie like you and me just wants to talk to people.
Exactly. I'm like, I didn't know if people were even going to listen to this thing. What I had to say. Okay. So you've been doing it 8 years. You're 300 and some odd episodes in, right? What have you, like, what are some takeaways? Like, what are some things you've learned along the way of this journey? I guess for good or for bad, like what are some things you've taken away from doing this for so long?
Well, I don't know if I've taken anything away from it. I think what I've realized was it's hard to find 50 different people a year, and hard to make that schedule up and keep that schedule up. And I'll tell you, half the year, like, there's times when I'll finally get a hold of somebody. I'll tell them, I'll ask when they can do it. And they'll say, "Well, I could do it tomorrow. I'm okay." And that thing gets released 2 days later. So I do not, as a lot of people have, 6 or 7 episodes all done already. And I'm usually maybe 2 weeks ahead, on a good month. Okay. So I haven't learned anything except to prepare, meaning don't get a couple podcasts, recorded and think you got 2 weeks before you got to find another guest. So it's really taught me, a buddy of mine, I could turn my computer, but I've never been very organized, and I've got a big giant 4-month grease board, and that has helped me hugely. I mean, like, I've got notes in red and green and black all over the thing. And I live and die by that thing now. So it'll say next week's guest or something, like, oh yeah, who is it? Who's it going to be? So I've just learned that I have to be a little more organized. Sure. But I don't know if there's a takeaway from it. I think if there's a takeaway, that if you're speaking to someone in your genre, which is what I love, people, dogs, guns, birds, it's easy. The takeaway, this is not hard to do.
Sure.
You just got to have a passion for talking to people. And I've got diarrhea of the mouth. My mother said it. My teacher said it. I could not be a solo, like, those solo show hunters that go out and film themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
no, not.
Yeah, that I would probably be hanging from a tree after 4 days.
Would not work well.
I'd at least have to have a volleyball like Tom Hanks.
There you go. Carried around in your bag. And
I have to bring Wilson. Yeah, I'd have to bring Wilson.
So last question on podcasting, just because I'm curious here. So, like, what keeps motivating you to keep putting these episodes out, to keep doing this year after year? Like, what's that driving factor for you?
I guess that's, as much as I'm disorganized, I've always stuck to stuff. I might not know where my tools are or where my wallet's at, but if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And so I did not set an end goal. I just set a goal to do a podcast. And honestly, it's become so much fun. It's become fun for me. And it's not like a little hunting trip, but it's, I don't know. It's just a great part of my week is getting a podcast recorded. And I think it's just that I stick to things, Now, I'm not saying I stick to exercise bikes. And
I mean, that's crazy. Why would someone do that?
Right. Right. You young people exercise too much. You're going to be my age. You ain't going to be able to walk. But, it's just, good. I've always had, like I said, I've done the same kind of job my whole life. Had the same second wife for 36 years. I like to say, if I can, I stick to something. So
yeah, that's cool.
It also became a job. I mean, I'm sure it also has become my job. Once I don't know where you're at. I think I listened to a couple you've got a couple sponsors that you work with, or a couple people you're working with, whether they're in trade or in kind or for money. Once I actually got a couple companies to give me money, I was like, just like taking a purchase order, like, well, I told them I was going to do it for a year, and they're paying me, so I can't not do it. Yeah. And then it became my living. When COVID hit, I quit my business, and this is my
you went all in. You went all in. You're like, this is it.
Yeah. No, it's
that's fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun. Well, I told the same thing. I had Nick Larson on a few weeks ago, and when I picked up my first bird dog, it was your podcast and Nick's, the first ones I kind of stumbled across. I don't even know how I came about them, but started listening to them, and I'm like, all right, like it started to give me the tools and some of the knowledge to, and just some of the excitement. It gets you excited for, getting out, training your own dog, getting out, finding, new public ground. So thank you. I'll say that. Thank you for what you've been doing.
Oh, I like I said, I won't quit until they throw the dirt over me.
I love it. All right, let's get into a little more hunting, a little bit about your dogs. So you got a whole bunch of dogs now, don't you? You got some Broncos, a Cocker, and a wire hair Vizsla, right? Why don't you talk about some of your dogs?
Yeah. Well, the Broncos were my second wave. My first wave of dog, my first good dog was a German short hair named Queenie. And I got her from a very reputable breeder and trainer in Rockford, Michigan, Jim Ripkema, who I still see from time to time. It's really fun to see the guy. But I kind of, as people would say in the dog world, I ran with German wire hairs for a decade and a half, probably. Right around the end of that, I got involved with helping a guy rehome a Bronco. I didn't know what they were. They happened to be on the cover of our club magazine. So I knew what they were by looking at them, but I had never seen one. No one had ever seen them in the field, really. And this guy wanted one, and he found one, and I helped facilitate getting it to him. And the dog was such a clown. It ended up living at my neighbor's house, for about 8 years. And because he didn't want it. After he went through all the research to get this dog, turned out it was gun shy, at least temporarily. And Bill was an older guy, and he says, "Oh, I can't take it if it's gun shy." Oh, well, you should have done your homework. But anyway, it lived basically across the street from me, about a quarter mile away. And I said to myself, even though I had my wire hairs, I said, I'm going to try one of those goofy long-eared dogs that you don't have to spend as much time yelling at them as you do other dogs. Now, I'm not saying yelling at a dog has never been a good training method. Everybody knows. But if you've got a wife and kids and a job and more than one dog, you will find yourself yelling at the dog some point in your life.
It's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. It just comes with the territory. It's like a dad with 3 kids. You're going to yell at them. You may not be real proud of it after you get done yelling at them, but God damn it, you're going to yell at them sometimes. And with that breed, I found myself yelling a lot less, which was good.
Yeah, it's like a change of pace. You're like, hey, this is nice, actually.
Yeah, my dog didn't run away. Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
So was that?
My dog didn't bring home a dead fawn. My dog didn't bring home the neighbor's cat. There was a lot of enlightenment there going on with the Broncos.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, and then there are other dogs in here are V, my Cocker Spaniel. She's my second Cocker Spaniel. I lost Taffy at very young age, last Christmas, to pancreatic cancer, which was just a fluke. It wasn't a breed thing. It wasn't a lineage, it wasn't a genetic thing. Yeah. Could have been from some kind of poison. You can read all you want about it, but I was smitten with her, and I will probably always have at least one Cocker around. So
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like minutes after my vet called me and opened her up and said, yeah, there's no hope. And I said, we kind of knew that, but she said, let me just, she goes, you were going to come in and have us look at it anyway.
Sure.
She stayed after work and she opened her up and zipped her right up and put her down, when she saw what she saw.
Yeah.
And
was she young?
2.5 years.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's really, rough.
Really,
that is.
I've been through a lot rougher than that. Trust me.
Sure.
When it comes to dogs, I've had some dog tragedies, but it's just, I think, if you're into the dog, if you're going to be in this game, in the dog world, you've got to develop thick skin.
Mm-hmm.
You may not know, Will, but of course you get a lot of correspondence from listeners, and everybody always hears me quote this George Bird Evans quote about, a dog's life being so short. Even a dog like Taffy, if the breeder told me there's a good chance at 2.5 she could die, now I might not buy that dog.
Sure.
But if something came up where, like, I had the dog, went to the vet, and then let's say the vet heard a heart murmur and I already had the dog, I'd be like, okay, how long do I got with her? Yeah. Could be 2 years, could be 5. I wouldn't do anything different. I'm always willing to take the next one on.
Yeah. Having, like you said, thick skin is kind of a must, because things are going to happen to dogs, and whether it's an accident or some health stuff, like it's going to happen, and you got to be able to understand it for what it is. Real quick, before we get into the wire-haired Vizsla, with the cockers right now, like, I'm just curious, like, cockers have been exploding right now. Like, cockers have, you'll see, Tom, Dick, and Harry left and right getting cockers. What the hell is the cocker craze right now? And what makes them so special?
I think people, it was just like one of those, I don't know. I guess I can't find the words for it. It was kind of like the best kept secret in the world, right? They've been around forever. Now, that's the American cocker's been around forever, but the English fieldbred cocker, it's been on, plantations, and guys, I know guys that have had them for 20 years and then told me, like, oh yeah, I had a cocker. Really? Oh, best dog I ever had. And then you read these articles about them, which sways a lot of people. They're just they're so people oriented. They're kind of hard to train a little bit. You got to, tweak it a little bit, but they just love people. Like, I can't say that about all my German wire hairs. I can't even say that about all my Bracos. On the opposite side of not aggression, I've had Bracos that wouldn't let anybody pet them. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing to me. If my dog cowers in the corner, I'm like, what's wrong with this dog? Right? I didn't raise it that way. Right. I didn't beat it into submission. Right. Cockers, just like, they come out of the box like, boom, I'm a cocker. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? They just, and I think enough people told that story. And you're right. I think there's 4 different podcasters I know that got cockers since I got a cocker.
They're going crazy. Yeah,
I know. And of course, that's going to have a slippery slope. There's going to be people that aren't happy with their dog, and there's going to be people that are happy with their dog. But when popularity is not always a good thing. So
when you say, oh, sorry. Yeah. When you were saying, you said you have to kind of tweak the training a little bit. Are you referring to versus training a pointing dog? It's very different, or just because of the cocker? What do you mean by that?
The cocker itself is if the cocker happened to be a pointing dog, it'd still be different. And people say this, I don't even have enough anecdotal evidence to tell it to you, except I saw it a couple times with Taffy. It's kind of like, if you do something wrong, they don't forgive you. I don't mean like they're going to sulk all day long.
Sure.
Like, if you make a mistake in training, it's a lot of work to fix it. Where, like, with a German wire hair, I'm not saying you can't make a mistake in training. Of course you can. but you could kind of set the reset you could like, all right, you know what, that's my fault. All right, we're not going to do that. Yeah. Where the cocker kind of like, I remember how that went, and I don't want to do it. So they're a little, but I also did not take Taffy to a high level of training, so it was kind of easy.
Gotcha.
They literally, you call one in. I mean, not when they're chasing a bird by any means.
Sure.
But I mean, you're just out and about with them, and you just go, like I've never seen a dog respond this good in my whole life. And I got dogs that I think love me.
Inukshuk Professional Dog Food is the highest energy dog food in the world. Inukshuk's dense formulations ensure that your pup in training and your seasoned bird dog get what they need to succeed in the field. Inukshuk works hard so your dogs can work harder. Check them out at inukshukpro.com. Trinity Bretons is the home of the Épagneul Breton, also known as the French Brittany. All Trinity Breton dogs are from champion bloodlines that are field tested and family approved. For over 33 years, Trinity Bretons has worked to offer you the best bred Épagneul Breton in the country. Check them out at trinitybretons.com. Also on Facebook and Instagram at Trinity Bretons.
But they can't even get here as fast as a cocker can get here. You know? And
I think you've summed up the cocker energy very, very. I wish people could see your facial expressions.
Like that, and they tend to like everybody. Like there's a lot of dogs that don't like everybody. They kind of become one person dogs. I think I could give. If V was 3 years old and trained, I could probably drop her off at your house and she'd say, "Oh, I'm hunting with him. I don't care.
Let's go.
Let's go."
And are you hunting your cockers the same? I mean, same terrain, same country as you would some of your Bracos and other dogs, or are you picking thick pheasant cover to run your cockers?
Yeah, I don't run them in the prairie. I don't. Okay. I mean, you can. It's just not real effective. They're most effective in thick cover. So, if you, even when I go South Dakota, if I'm in a big area looking for pheasants, I don't bring her, because she's not going to cover the ground. Pheasants are famous for just not sticking around you. They're notorious for a lot of things.
Sure.
And it's just really not the right. I wouldn't even call that a great pheasant dog. But where it's nice is, like when you see a small slough and like, let's say it's wintertime and there's some pheasants in the area, pheasants could run through cattail sloughs and stay on the ground with one dog. And if there's a handful of pheasants in there, let's say, you could walk through there and you're not going to get them out of there. They're just going to run circles, figure eights. They might come out, they might fly. And your pointing dog's going to go in there and point. Yeah. And eventually relocate. But the cocker is just, they tear it up like a weed whacker. They're obsessed with like, it's just so where they're really good is in thick cover. And of course I live in Michigan and we hunt grouse and woodcock. Sure. And they can make a very effective grouse and woodcock dog. And that's where they got their name from. In England, the cocker was used for the woodcock. It was
interesting.
Smaller dog could get into thicker, lower cover. And then the Springer Spaniel was a bigger, taller dog. So they were really the same dog once upon a time. The tall ones became Springers. The small ones became cockers.
That's fascinating. Look at that. Learn a little history on here.
Wait till trivia comes out. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. We're just getting warmed up. All right. Ware-haired Vizsla. What the heck? That's a pretty, uncommon breed right there.
Yeah. And I would have never picked the breed, except that I met the breed probably 5 years ago at Pheasant Fest. A lady that I now know over in Wisconsin, she was there with one of them, and it had the same exact disposition as my Bracos. It was like, it would come up to you and it would just lean on you. Not just stand there and get petted. It leaned,
It's like, give me some love.
Like, well, be damn, and I'm petting the dog and she's like, "Are you interested in him?" I'm like, "So far, I backed off. I did not buy one, but then I was out in North Dakota a year ago, and a young lady there, Allison, had a male, and I liked him. And then she happened to tell me she had a litter of dogs on the ground that just born. And I'm like, what the heck? What the heck? You know, I'll take a roll on it. And his name is Tagus, named after a ghost town in North Dakota. And so, yeah, he's a combination I've never owned a Vizsla. I don't know if you've ever been around Vizslas.
I've been around a couple, but not extensively.
Right. And there, I would say Vizslas could be all over the board. There's a bunch of pet dog breeder Vizsla people. And there's a bunch of great field Vizslas, but it was never a breed ever on my radar. It's just for whatever reason. Great Danes aren't on my radar either. You know what I mean? Vizsla was never on my radar. I've seen a lot of nice ones. They've got all kinds of talent. It's just never, something's got to appeal to you first,
Yeah.
So this was kind of like the disposition appealed to me. And then I had that really great tough coat like I used to have on my first German Wirehair.
Yeah.
I mean, his coat is better than probably any German Wirehair I've ever seen.
Wow.
I mean, it's that thick and that wiry. In fact, he's got even on a scale of wire-haired Vizsla coats, it varies just like Griffons and just like Wirehairs and Drahthaars. Their coats can vary from slick to almost nothing to it could have a very nice serviceable coat, dual coat. I got very lucky out of that litter. I think he's probably got the best coat out of the litter.
That's awesome.
That dog be able to go through shit that, most dogs would turn back from.
I mean, and you probably know this way better than me. I have not been around many of the Wirehair breeds, but was that, again, with the German Wirehairs or other Wirehair dogs, they were bred so that they were kind of breeding for that coat so they wouldn't get tangled and stuff and beat up by a brush. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a more durable coat, a much more durable coat, basically. And they were looking for harshness, which, like when a dog, you've got Brits, they've usually got a dense and soft coat. I mean, that's pretty much, as long as they got a dense coat, when your dog goes through a bunch of CRP grass, if he goes through it long enough, he's gonna be all red here, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna be red forelegs. And I don't know what the terrain was in Europe, but I'm sure they've got something like, rough grass or switchgrass. Cattails, the same thing. Cattails will tear a dog up. Turn them red. So I think they were just trying to improve the coat. And I don't think it has anything to do with anything else, but then just having a good, durable, serviceable coat. Yeah. And with that came the facial.
The beard and all that. Yeah.
And that's problematic in itself, though. Trust me. Even with a great Wirehair coat or a great Drahthaar coat, you're going to be picking all the stuff out of their ears. And,
gosh. So with, is it Tangus or Tungus? Your Tagus. So with him, so he's pretty young still. So how's training been going with him, and how's he been doing this summer?
He's been doing real well. Very strong retrieving instinct. And I literally took a path that basically right out of my Upland Institute course that Justin and I do. I decided to take it very, very slow with him. I went to North Dakota without him, even though I named him after the town I went to. I said, you know what? I've got other dogs that need work. He doesn't need to run around and figure this stuff out yet. People love bringing, if you only got one dog and you're going out west, you're going to bring a 6-month-old dog because why not teach him, he learns to travel in a truck. He learns to travel, eat on the road. He learns to sleep, all that's great for a young dog. You just typically don't get a lot of great hunting with a 6-month-old dog. So I said, no, he'll get a little grouse and woodcock hunting here. And come springtime, I'll get him. He's literally been on probably, I know this will sound funny, he's probably been on maybe 6 birds in his whole life now. He's a year old. Okay.
Is that typical for you and your dogs, or is that's a little different?
I used to get him in front of pigeons and launchers, and we gotta take him to the pheasant preserve. Let's make sure, all these things are inherited traits, right?
Sure.
Pointing is you can't make a dog point. You can stop a dog. Like you could stop like if you had a pointing dog that doesn't point, and it's rare, but it happens, especially with young ones. And if you kind of panicked and didn't hunt wild birds, which not everybody can hunt wild birds all the time.
Sure.
I can't, I hunt a lot of preserved birds over my lifetime. If you had to, upon the smell of a bird, you could teach a dog to stop.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a command. When you see him making game, you teach him whoa. Right. So pointing is an instinct, and I know from its lineage and what its parents did. I'm like, there's no doubt in my mind this dog's going to point a bird when he smells a bird. I mean, why wouldn't he? Right. And I was gambling a little bit, and I was kind of trying to make a point. And 3 weeks ago, I went out to our training grounds, and somebody said, I got an extra chucker. Somebody said, you want to put him on? I'm like, all right. I put it out in the field. I took him on a check cord. I let the check cord go. He probably hadn't smelled a bird in 2 months before that and 4 months before that. And he locked up on point. Like, okay.
Here we go. Yeah, that's good.
It's an instinct, right? In retrieving the same way, I have backed off on doing a lot of early retrieving games. Now,
really?
Meaning get out in the backyard, take that bumper and whip it, right? Yeah. Whip. Dog likes it. We like it. It's fun, but it's not training, It's not training. It's just fun, And if the dog isn't really good, you're gonna create habits such as parading or dropping it early.
So it sounds like you're taking a little bit more of a slower approach in the development of him. It sounds like.
Yeah. And it's not because I think he's going to develop slow, because his sisters have already passed their NA test with flying colors, and they were hunting last November in North Dakota.
Wow.
So he could have been hunting. Sure. But I'm like, oh, he's fine. Yeah. It's kind of, I wouldn't call it an experiment. I don't experiment with dogs, but it was a different path. Yeah. A little bit slower. And I got that from interviewing some of the European breeders and trainers that I've interviewed over the years, which have only been maybe 5 or 6, but it's very typical in the UK, let's say, to take your time with the dog. There's no hurry.
That's so good you say that. I was just talking with, I think it was Travis Frank. I was talking with this same thing about, because when I got my first dog, there's this panic that comes over, as my first bird dog, still figuring things out. And there's this panic of I was always behind on, he has to get on 10 birds a day and he has to be doing retrieving by 6 months, let's say. And there was always like this panic over me. And then, once he gets older, I mature, then the second dog comes along. It's like, wait a second, like you're saying, things will come in time. You're not like go at your pace and go at the dog's pace.
Right. But, the way we do things in this country is so different than every other country, most other countries. Yeah. We like instant gratification. We want to make, I got a pointing dog. I got to find out if it points. Like, that's like saying you want to find out if it swims. Like, of course, now some dogs don't want to go in the water and retrieve things for you, but there's not a dog on this planet that can't swim, right?
It's gonna figure it out.
It's gonna figure it out the minute you put it in the water. Yeah. I will tell you, a couple of Broncos I've known that didn't want to use their back legs. I think they were just a little stupid. I had to tie a water ring around one of them so he'd use his back legs. But no, it's just an approach that I thought, I am not in a hurry. I've got other dogs to hunt. I'm just going to take a little slower approach with it. And it might bite me in the butt. I don't know.
You'll see.
I'll find out. I'll have his natural ability test coming up here in August, and I'll make a prediction on your podcast that he will pass that test.
All right. You heard it here, folks. Well, that leads me into, I did want to ask you, I know you referenced the Upland Institute. I did want to ask you about what that is and why did you, start that? I know Justin McGrail, he's a friend of yours who did that with you. Can you talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
I had always been trying to get Justin. I used to get him on the podcast, and I mean, people would always say, oh, bring Justin back. He's such a good he's such a good problem solver.
He communicates really well too. Just really well.
He's done one job his entire life, right? It's working dogs. Like, you couldn't get him to pound a nail straight with a hammer. I like being a little more versatile and being able to fix things and go hunting, right? But he is so deep into it and has had a lot of great mentors and met some great people over the years. He approaches it like it is. It's his career. So when you ask him a question, it's not like oh yeah, we do that. He breaks it down. So I'd always been wanting to get him to do more content. And he's like, well, what do you want? More? We do a podcast, about every 6, maybe 8 months. I'm like, yeah, but, and he didn't even want to do the first one. He was like that guy we talked about. I don't want to get on a microphone. That might steal my soul, And then when he got a lot of listeners' questions and was reading them and answering them, he's like, man, we got to do that again. And yeah, one day I was just over at his kennel and we actually talked about, I won't say the breeder's name, and not because it's good, bad, or indifferent. There's a breeder of bird dogs that when you buy a bird dog from this person, you have to buy his video series. And it's not like a well-produced, edited, like what we did, but he wants you to have a playbook, right? Sure. And I said to Justin, when he told me about it, I said, yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard about that guy. And he said, boy, I ought to put down my thoughts in a video for people. And I'm like, yeah, you ought to. People love you on the podcast and we ought to film you training. And it was just kind of like, I don't know. And we were just really lucky when we decided to do it. We actually started with a GoPro, a little GoPro on a stick, and then found out that, yeah, that ain't going to be good for anything. That's good for YouTube, walking with it on your head or something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we both looked at the film clips of it, and he said, if we're going to do this, we got to get a real camera. I said, yep, we'll get a real camera. And I called up my friends at Meat Eater and I said, give me a brand of camera and a model that I could use. I don't want something so high tech that I got to go to film school for.
Yeah. So wait, anyway, you were going to do the recording of Justin, yourself. Yeah, okay. Wow.
I filmed the entire thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a couple of segments that if he's in a training room, he could set it up on a tripod and get something, like if I couldn't be there the next day and that dog was ready for another step on a table, that he would self-film that. But 90% of it, I was walking with the camera and using a tripod. So we just decided to do that, and it would have took forever. And I hate to say this, but COVID was the best thing that ever happened to me because it forced my company to close for a while, which ended up being permanent, which was good. And it gave me a year to just go over to Justin's and see 30 different dogs and put all this on film.
Wow.
Yeah. So it would almost be like if him and I wanted to do it today, it would probably take us 3-4 years.
Sure.
Because or he would have to hire a full-time cameraman. And can you imagine what that would cost?
Right.
It would set anybody back from saying, yeah, I really don't want to spend a half.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that.
So what did you guys end up putting together then? Is it kind of like a whole start to finish, like from puppy to finished broke dog, or?
Yep. Everything, right from the day you get the puppy home to advanced bird work if you want them steady to wing, shot, and fall. And we've got 3 courses. We got the foundations course, which is for puppy to first year. But I mean, you could take a 2-year-old dog and put it through foundations, but it works a lot better if you start with them as a puppy.
Sure.
And then we have a complete trained retrieve series. Where in that series, we followed one dog. We didn't want to show a dog that did one thing and a dog that didn't. We showed one dog. We showed an example of some other dogs in the process, but we stayed with one dog. But the rest of it are all dogs that come through his training kennel, some of his personal dogs, and a lot of customers' dogs. Because if we want to show a dog that's not ready for prime time, right? And you're in the middle of teaching him something, what better than a dog that's at a trainer's place that's there for that,
Yeah.
So we would have a list of things we need. And he would call me up and say, Ron, I got a guy's dog in. He wants me to get it used to gunfire and birds. That's all he's looking for. Boom, pop over there. And for a week, we'd film that dog.
That's
we'd
awesome.
see that dog. Yeah. So it was, very lucky the timing worked out that I had the time.
Absolutely. And is it all like, I don't know what you call it, internet-based videos or DVDs, or how do people get it?
No, it's completely online. It's a course. Once you buy it, you could watch it over and over on your phone or your laptop or your iPad. There's no I don't think anybody has DVDs.
Yeah, I was gonna say some people are still putting out training DVDs. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah. But I don't know how I don't have a device for that anymore.
No, same. I don't. Right. Laptops don't have them.
I'd have to get an external driver for my laptop.
Go find a Radio Shack still in business.
And what's really nice is if you're training, you can put an app on your phone, and then you can watch it just like you do, and you can start and stop right where you were when you were.
Oh, very
home.
cool.
And not that I don't want people to think they're going to walk in the field and try to train a dog. What we want people to do is watch it, and go apply it.
Yeah.
And then go back, watch it, and say, oh yeah, I see what I did wrong, and then go apply it.
Yeah.
If somebody tries to do this while they're holding their phone, they're not going to get there.
No, do not recommend. No, I mean, I think that's good because again, you understand people are consuming content digitally on their phones, iPads, whatever. So I thank you for doing that because that's all we're using now. We're not using DVDs, so I think that's a good way to deliver that kind of content. So that's awesome. I'm glad you're doing that. Ron, I always find it curious. I love to get into people's stories a little bit on like where did hunting and where did bird dogs, I guess, really kind of start for you? Was it something you grew up in, or when did that passion really kind of start to develop?
It was not a family thing. There was nobody in my family that hunted. Nobody on my mom or dad's side that hunted. And what happened was I was just one of those kids that, like so many kids, always finding snakes and frogs. I loved, like, let's say if I'd have gone to college, I probably would have went into biology or zoology. I always liked animals, but it had nothing to do with bird dogs. A friend of mine's dad started taking me trap shooting when I think I was about 14 or 15. And I met him in high school. I knew him from the neighborhood, but once we were in high school together, we were in the same school. And he said, yeah, you ought to come out on a Sunday and go trap shooting with us. Oh, that sounds cool. I don't have a gun. He goes, oh, my dad's got plenty of guns. So yeah, the gun came first, the gun and trap shooting. And then our circle of friends, once I was doing it with Joe, somebody else wanted to do it. And by that point, like one of our other friends was a little older and he got himself, at 18, you could buy a shotgun. And then so Frank had a gun, and then Rusty had a gun, and then we started going on Friday nights to go trap shooting. We had our own little trap shooting team, 5 guys. And once you're at the trap club, it's not like I didn't know about hunting because I tried to hunt with a slingshot. I tried to hunt with a bow and arrow, like along the railroad tracks in Chicago. I mean, we did all kinds of goofy stuff, but no, I wouldn't identify as a hunter until I had a gun and a shotgun. And then somebody told us about, you guys ought to go to this place or that place. In the state of Illinois, God bless them I don't thank the state of Illinois for a lot. And, but they had a really neat program. I think 2 different areas in Northern Illinois where I lived. I lived in Chicago. And so the state puts out pheasants and you can apply for a permit once a year to go there, but you can also get in line because when people buy these, apply for permits a year ahead of time, just by attrition, someone's not going to make it. Someone's having a baby. Someone's can't get the day off work. So there was always a will call line, and we made an art of it. I mean, we would go to these state-run places, like on a Friday night, with a case of beer and sit in a truck and be first in line. So if there was any cancellations, boom, we were in.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah, well, it was.
You kind of had beer and laugh. Well, yeah, and you kind of have to do that in Illinois.
Right, exactly. So it started with trap shooting, and then it turned into a state-run pheasant place. And then I finally, we saw a lot of people with dogs there, but quite honestly, with 5 guys, you kick around, these are pen-raised birds. You're going to find some, and they're going to fly. And I'm sure we walk past a lot of them still, but we got enough to always keep us interested. And then we'd bring them home. And my dad was a real good butcher, and so he showed us how to clean I don't think there was a kid in Chicago that ever cleaned their own bird. You know what I mean? Because you bought it from the store. We didn't buy birds with that. In Europe, you buy a chicken right off the hook. It's got the feathers on it.
Right. So then you go clean it yourself.
Right. So anyway, so shotguns. And then finally one day there, the way that the state runs it, they had a little lunch counter, a little sloppy Joe and coffee counter there. And we went back to get something to eat for lunch. And there was a guy there, and he said, "How did you guys do?" And we said, "We didn't do very good today. I think we got like 4 of us there, and I think we got 2 birds, And he says, "Hey, if you don't mind, I've already got my birds." And you can only get two per person anyway. He said, "I already got my birds, but I'd love my dog to work a little bit more. You want me to take you out? We can go back to whatever you get. You get an area to start off with, but after that, as people leave, you've got a couple thousand acres to walk around. Beautiful, beautiful facilities or terrain." And so he took us out with his German short-hair pointer. And of course, again, the dog was great, absolutely great. But a preserved bird to a good hunting dog is like T-ball to a baseball player, right? Sure. It's good practice.
Sure.
So all we saw, though, was this dog point and retrieve, point and retrieve, point and retrieve. And I was just blowing my mind. I was like, we got to get a dog.
Yeah, of course.
That was the next step. It took a few years, but that was where the dog part came in. Seeing somebody else's dog and getting to shoot a bird over it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Do you, just curious, does Illinois, they still have that program where they will release birds?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, it's still going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got a lot, that state's got a lot of restrictions.
Yeah.
Tons of private land, there's really no other place to go.
Yeah. I mean, public land is tough. Because I remember when I started out on a preserve in Illinois, and I drive way out west, Western Illinois. And once I started getting into that a little bit, I was like, oh, like I want to hunt wild birds. I started looking. This is before I knew about Onyx, but I was like, I don't know where to go. Like, it seems like it's all private. Right.
Yeah. In Northern Illinois, basically 3/4 of Illinois is private.
Yeah.
I mean, the top 3/4 of the state is private. The bottom of it's got plenty of public ground, but that's good for deer and turkey. No,
exactly. So what brought you up to Michigan? And was that, were you already into bird hunting pretty heavy then when you went to Michigan?
Yeah, I would say I never missed a season. I had not traveled out of Illinois to hunt though, and made a few connections. We did learn to we had a couple doors we could knock on. A couple guys I worked with knew a couple people, but it was always either those state programs or a couple of private farms. And there were still a few birds around Illinois too, wild birds. The move to Michigan came from, I'd gone there a lot as a kid to an uncle's place. And I had it in my head that as much as I would not trade places growing up in Chicago, I loved growing up in Chicago. You cannot have that much fun in an entire life. I don't care. Anybody says, "Oh yeah, I rode the bus to school and got to shoot birds." That's fun. We got to break windows, jump on trains, jump on buses, jump across roofs, hang out in cemeteries, outrun cops. I mean, it was like our gang comedy for a dozen years. I love growing up there. But when I go to Michigan, because of that love of, frogs, turtles, fish, and all that other stuff, I always wanted to move to Michigan. And so that was again, stick to it. I had that plan. I told people probably when I was, 13, 14 years old, when I'd leave my uncle's place, come home, I said, I'm going to move to Michigan someday. My dad, yeah. You're going to get a job and you're going to live in Chicago. But Dad, I'm moving to Michigan. He's like, no, you're not. I said, oh no, I'm moving to Michigan. And I didn't even know what that meant. It's just that
you had it in your head.
I had it in my head. I'm moving to Michigan. So
kind of like you mentioned earlier, you stick to what you say you're going to do. And so
if I'm going to do something, I do it. Yeah. I mean, I started jujitsu at age 58,
Oh, wow. Good for you.
And I walked into that place and they're like, you're they didn't say you're too old, but I said, no, I'm going to do it. Of course I got that from Joe Rogan too, talks everybody into doing jujitsu. So I'm like, I think I'll do it.
Yeah. Give it a shot. That's awesome. What's this fall looking like for you, Ron? What are you excited about? Just want to take a quick moment and say, if you've ever considered a dog box, then now is the time to check out B Pro Kennels. B Pro Kennels is revolutionizing the dog box game, style, and function. From their built-in solar panel and battery bank to charge collars or whatever you need on the go, from their powder-coated all aluminum design, storage, 2-hole system, 3-hole system, they have you covered. For all Upland Rookie podcast listeners, now is the time to get your order in today, and you're going to save 30%. 30%, you use promo code ROOKIE30. That's ROOKIE30. You're going to save 30% in the entire month of July on your dog box system from B Pro Kennels.
The first thing will be, I still have a place in Virginia that I used for work for years. And my 3 daughters, their husbands, and my wife and our dogs are going down to Virginia for the opener dove season.
Oh, nice.
We're going to spend Labor Day down there and do some dove hunting. And then I take off for North Dakota toward the middle of September. And then from there, I'm going to head to Wyoming. There I'll head home. And October, I'll be hunting around Michigan, hunting up in the UP for grouse and woodcock up there as well. Then November, I go to South Dakota. And January, I'm flipping a coin where I'm going to go for. I think I'm going to go to. I've been in Kansas in January before. Yeah. It's a great place in January. I love Kansas in January.
Yeah. That's awesome. That sounds like action-packed fall right there for you.
Yeah, and it's not as much. There's people who hunt more than I do.
Sure.
But I love going to new places. Yep. I had a friend from Wyoming call me up. It was 3 months ago and said, "Hey, can you come out here and hunt?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been to Wyoming before." And he said, "Well, we're going to hunt up here." I'm like, "Never been there."
Sign me up.
More people to talk to and a place I haven't been. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for that.
That's the exciting part. I mean, you've been at this a long time, Ron. You've been, bird dogs, hunting, chasing birds. What's something I guess you've learned, maybe something new, maybe over the last couple seasons, last couple years, that you think is valuable to share with someone else?
Well, I would say, I would say there is a takeaway lesson from that. For all the years I hunted, and even up to, I would say, quite to be really frank and honest with you, I'll say 10 years ago, maybe it was 15, but I'm just going to say 10 years ago because it's a little embarrassing. I didn't pay attention to habitat. Like, I was a member of Pheasants Forever, and then I wasn't. I was a member of Rough Grouse Society, and I wasn't. I was a member of Ducks Unlimited. But when I went duck hunting, I didn't look at the habitat. I didn't look to see if there was, food source. I learned to, because of those habitat organizations, to pay more attention to the habitat, which gets you more deep into, well, you can walk in a lot of brown grass and not find something, but you can go into a field and get to a corner where there's a swale and there's a bunch of bushes and there's pollinators. And so, the thing that I've learned in recent, like say the recent decade, is how interesting it is out there, and how I was kind of part of the problem. I was just a hunter. Mm-hmm. I was like, got my hunting license, pay my dues. Yeah. I gave Pheasants Forever $35 to get a magazine. I thought I was doing, there's just a lot more to it. Yeah. So I think, paying attention to things like when you see I don't know if you're a BHA member or PF member, or if you're a member of any of those groups, when they put a vote, when they send you an email and it says contact your senator, I guarantee you 10, 15 years ago, I clicked delete.
Yeah.
Now I get on there and I want to read what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'll call my senator, and it's really easy. They give you the link right to it. You can go right to their email, send them an email.
Yeah.
So I was embarrassingly not that well engaged. I think now in the latter half of my hunting career, which is hopefully another 20 years on top of this, will be being more concerned about opportunity, access, habitat. Habitat's the biggest thing,
Yeah.
Like I'd see a new shopping mall go up and it never bothered me.
Sure.
And now I see something getting built. I'm like, oh, there'd be some more squirrels displaced.
Yeah. That's a really, really good perspective on that. Cause you're spot on. I think a lot of people, it just kind of in the back of your mind, you think a hunting license, a PF membership, and you're good to go. Check off my list and ready to go. When you kind of think about, I guess, I don't know, this is a deeper question maybe, but like when you think about the state of hunting right now, like, are you concerned about it at all? Or are you encouraged by more participation and more people getting into it? I guess, do you have a pulse on that at all from your own perspective?
Yeah, that might be a whole nother podcast, Will. Because I don't know how much nobody can listen to everybody's podcast all the time. So, I listen to a few years here and there. I used to be on the road all the time. I could listen to 30 podcasts a week, driving. But I recently had Matt Ranella on, who obviously from the last name, you can tell that's Steve's brother. And he kind of got me a little woke up about, the R3 movement and like, what is too many hunters? I don't know. So it's on my mind a lot. So it would take us forever to dive into that. So I think the state of hunting is good. I think the direction some of it's going, it's way different for us upland bird hunters. I've been crowded out of a spot or two. I've historically gone somewhere, oh shit, someone's parked there, right? Sure. Another spot to go walk to. If I were a deer hunter or a turkey hunter or out west hunter, I would say the state of hunting out there, there's too many hunters. There's just not enough animals and spaces to go hunt them in. So in that regard, I'm just giving Matt that shout out.
Do you know what episode number that was off the top of your head? If people want to refer back to that?
That was probably, I don't know what episode number it was. Probably 3 months ago. 2 months ago, 2-3 months ago. But yeah, the state of hunting overall, I think it's great. I think the dogs are better, I think, and young, all the young guys, like I said, everybody's got a podcast. There's nobody my age talking dogs. They're all, they all think, the microphone, you got to sound like a radio disc jockey. But you younger guys are out there and I think you're already, it's kind of been force fed to you, habitat, membership, support, acting on things, so I think the state of it's in good shape. I will just give a thing that I don't know how many more we need. I don't, if we blinked our eyes and we said, oh, we need twice as many bird hunters next year, where would we all hunt?
Wow.
Where would we all hunt? So it's kind of be careful what you wish for. But I love the tradition of it. I haven't mentored a lot of people, but in a way I've mentored a lot through my podcast because I get the emails that said they heard it, they listened to it. I'm getting a second dog. I'm getting my first dog, So I think the state of it's real good. I think there's just, there's some issues with it. Yeah.
That's good. That was a good teaser. I think that teed up maybe a future discussion and if listeners want to go back and check out the Matt Ranella episode of yours, I think that'll be a good one. I think to listen in. So, all right, Ron, for the sake of time, we're going to kind of skip a section here and we're going to kind of start wrapping things up if you're cool with that.
I can be rolling soon too. Yeah,
that's perfect. So I like to end every podcast with a few questions, and the one I like to ask everyone, let's say there's the rookie uplander out there. They're listening to this podcast right now. I like to say maybe they just picked up their first bird dog. Maybe this season, fall 2022, is going to be their first upland season. What piece of advice would you give them?
Well, if they took the advice I had with V and with Tagus, go slow. Don't be in a hurry. It's impossible. It's almost impossible. Don't be in a hurry. Just get your dog out, take time, work on obedience. Obedience does not come in the gene package with a dog. Okay. There's no dog.
Wait, what? Are you serious?
Well, think about it. They get search, water, tracking, pointing, retrieving. Those are all genes. Those are all genetically, that's all in the recipe already.
Yeah.
Nowhere in there does a dog come out obedient. Now, they come out with cooperation, but there's a lot of dogs that are lacking cooperation. So spend that time with your dog. You know, I'd rather see a young guy go hunt a little bit with his dog, but be able to call him back like he's out hunting and go, shh, see that dog zoom back to him. Like, okay, it's not all just about running. You know, It's not.
That's good.
Yeah.
Go slow.
Just go slow. Yep.
That's great. Thank you. Okay. Last section will be our rapid fire round. So I am just going to ask you a few questions, and you just give me your off the cuff answer, and we'll be wrapping this thing up. So a couple popped in my head as we're talking. So this one's not on the question list, but how many clays have you ever hit in a row? No line.
I think once I hit 25 in a row.
Really?
I would choke. Used to get a patch from AA shotgun shells. If you're in a trap club, they send a scorecard in and you get a patch that said 25 straight. And I don't think I ever got that patch when I was shooting at the gun club.
Oh.
I would choke. I would right up into the 20s. I'd be doing good and I'd choke.
Oh, the pressure's too much.
I do not have a brag board of 100 straight or 200. No.
All right.
I'll say 24. I'll do 24.
24. Okay. All right. I believe that answer. All right. A couple more here. What came first for you? Where'd my question go? Oh, what came first? The dog, the bird, or hunting?
I would say hunting, because like I said, when I was a kid, we'd run around with slingshots and bow and arrows and practice taxidermy on squirrels and pigeons.
Nice.
So the hunting and reading about hunting, that was always interesting to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hunting came first.
All right. Next one. Favorite dog breed besides the ones you've owned. So this may be a little tough for you.
You know, I'd probably say English setter.
Okay.
Never owned one. Boy, when I meet them, I usually love them. And again, a soft, dense coat. It's not up my alley for what I want for a coat and a dog. But yeah, I think English setter.
All right. All right. Favorite bird to hunt and why?
100% ringneck pheasants, wild ringneck pheasants. Even, well, I wouldn't say preserve birds, but even some that are like in South Dakota released early in the year, they can be kind of tricky. But a wild ringneck pheasant plays by no rules. They're liars, they're cheaters, and they can take a load of lead like a white-tailed deer can take a gut shot. You got to put them down. You hit a woodcock with a BB and it falls down and calls uncle. I mean, you could nick a woodcock in the beak and he's going to fall out of the sky. So yeah, I like pheasants because they don't play by the rules.
I like that. They're nasty little things. All right. What gun are you carrying into the field and why?
Besides being forced to carry a sponsor's gun in once in a while, from CZ to Beretta to Weatherby now, I like old guns. I like old side-by-sides, and I like them older than me.
There you go. You like them seasoned.
I like guns that have been owned by other people and shot by other people, and I've got probably a dozen of those that I picked up from people, friends, sales, things like that. Like I have a 120-year-old English side-by-side shotgun.
Wow.
That I just absolutely love that gun.
That's cool.
Older the better.
Older the better. I like it. Yeah. I like it. All right.
Auto loaders you could take and throw in the water. I don't care for auto loaders.
Yeah. They're like, we're good.
They always jam.
That's true. Especially when it's cold and snowy. Not good. Yep. All right. Last thing, two-parter question. Beverage of choice after a hunt?
Well, that would be beer.
Okay. Yep. You want cheap beer, IPAs, fancy beer?
No. Yeah. Miller Lite. That's it. Okay. Miller Lite. I mean, I have learned to drink a lot of different beers, but the one beer I can't drink is an IPA. And I don't want to get my buzz on fast.
Slow roll.
Slow roll. And you can drink about 2 Miller Lights an hour and you can't stop. You don't have to stop.
No, you just keep going. It's like hydration.
Just keep going.
All right. Second part to this. It might be different, might be not. Favorite beverage of choice during a podcast?
It would still be beer, but I like a better beer. Like,
oh, okay.
For a while, like Perrin's, it's a local brewery here, Perrin's Black Ale.
Okay.
Like a coffee or a nut or a brown beer.
You're stepping it up a little bit for the podcast game.
Step it up sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, well, put it this way. When I started doing the podcast, I got a pretty strong Australian contingency that listened to me. And I used to get a lot of emails and they called me Tinny because they call a can of beer a tin. They would count how many times I cracked.
Yeah, crack one open.
They're like, nice job, Ron. 8 tinnies last night.
I will never forget. I was listening to one of your podcasts back in the day. I was driving with a buddy Matt of mine we're going to shoot clays, and we're listening to one of your episodes, and we're like, is he cracking beers on the episode? We couldn't figure out like what was happening. We're like, yeah, he is.
Yeah. The only reason I would have probably had 4 beers sitting here talking to you, except I've got to do a Zoom room tonight for my patrons. So I'll start drinking beer about 8 o'clock tonight.
There you go.
It'll be a lot of beer.
I'm sure. Well, Ron, thank you so much. This has really been a blast. Talking with you, getting to know your story more, and hearing you share some of your wisdom about hunting and bird dogs. So thank you for doing this.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. You guys are all doing a good job out there, giving people content and giving people. I think if we get the hunters organically through podcast and desire, I don't want to recruit a hunter. I like someone to have the desire to walk in the door. You want to walk in, I'll show you I'll show you how to open the windows and close the windows and turn the AC on and everything. But I don't want to talk anybody into doing anything. And I think the podcast, I don't think we talk anybody into doing anything. We kind of give them that off-season chat box, when they can't talk to their friends about hunting with their dogs.
Wow. What a way to summarize this. That's gold right there. Thank you.
All righty.
Well said. All right, Ron, will you take care? Hunting Dog Podcast, obviously website, people can find you on Instagram, social media, all that.
All that stuff. You bet.
All right. Well, thank you, Ron. You take care.
All right. Be good. See you, Will.
That's a wrap of episode 50 with Ron Boehme. Ron, thank you so much for sharing your time and experiences over the last several years, and really just thank you for the investment you've made into the upland and bird dog community. And don't forget about the podcast giveaway happening over at patreon.com. Now, I'm teaming up with some incredible companies run by incredible people. And we're going to be doing a giveaway for each of the next 4 months. So we're going to be doing a giveaway for July, August, September, and October. And some of these prizes include a knife from the Upland Knife Company and Mike Thompson. These knives are second to none. They look beautiful and going to be something you can even pass down generation to generation. It's going to have the podcast logo etched right into the knife, and it's going to be just a really, really sweet piece. A 2-dog cable gang system or a 4-dog. Again, this is going to be winner's choice based on what fits you and your needs and how many dogs you have. Now, the 2-dog system is going to come with 2 stakeouts. The 4-dog is not going to come with stakeouts, but again, it's going to be up to the winner based on what you need. It's going to be the Gunner Fan Kit 2.0. Keep those dogs cool this summer, heading into the fall, chasing sharptails or huns or prairie chickens, whatever it might be. Got to keep those dogs cool in their boxes. And lastly is going to be a complete vest system from Final Rise. That is right, a vest system. Now that could be the tried and true Summit vest, that can be the Legacy vest, or it can be the brand new Sidekick vest over from Final Rise. And again, winner's choice based on what you need and how you train, how you hunt. You're going to get some sweet customization and be able to choose the vest that fits you best. So get signed up at patreon.com, and we're going to be doing a giveaway here in July. And again, it's going to be winner's choice. So whoever wins will get first crack at these prizes, and so on as we head into the fall. Hey guys, until next time, put some miles on those boots and follow your favorite bird dog. Take care.